every single one of these athletes have felt probably as if they themselves or their dream of competing in these Olympic Games burned to the ground
Right.
into ashes. And yet, these beautiful, gorgeous phoenixes just rose in this moment.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to season 2 of Flipping Out with Bridget Sloan, the Olympic special. I am your host, Bridget Sloan, and I will be joined each week by the one and only legend herself, Miss Kathy Johnson Clark. We will be talking all things elite gymnastics, and that is every competition leading up to the Olympics and during. And for today's episode, we have a pretty good one. This is part 1 of Olympic trials. We are going to be talking about the women today and all the glory and greatness and heartbreak that we witnessed. Let's get into it. Kathy, we have there were some things that happened over the weekend. The Olympic trials happened, and not only did we get to watch, but you got to watch it live because you were there. So, my first question to you about Olympic trials, take me through the crowd, the environment, the arena. I mean, it literally looked electric.
Oh my God. So, day one was fantastic for the women,
Mhm.
but day two, that final day, you could feel the excitement and the love in this arena. The support for these athletes was just beyond description. I can't even put into words what I was feeling because they were such a knowledgeable audience. Like, I don't know who all was in this audience, but how they seemingly all knew the parts of the routines that were important, that
Yeah.
maybe even the nervous thing or the, oh, got to get this or hit those handstands or hit this and that.
Mhm.
You could palpably feel while you heard them cheering or sighing or clapping or or urging on, or just
Mhm.
a collective like feeling of hope
Yeah.
that was being sent out to these athletes. And it built from day one all the way through to where at the end it's like every person in the audience couldn't contain their excitement, their feelings, their love for these athletes, all of them, like
Mhm.
every single one of them. There was even interaction kind of with the audience, and not just Jordan Chiles, who
Yeah.
always is very comfortable dancing and interacting with the audience. Others were feeding off of it, and I think it energized them because let's just put this out there. The Olympic trials are an entirely different beast,
Mhm.
and it can either bring out or like squash or compel, and
Yeah.
either way you have got to face off with it. You
Mhm.
just have to face off with the different kind of pressure, the emotion, and sometimes it sneaks up on you when you
Yeah.
maybe least expect it or where you expect it and it doesn't. And then
Yeah.
so it's so wrought with emotion and feeling that you have to channel and use for your skills. But here's the other thing: the gymnastics from routine one was, compared to championships, which was already so much better than we had seen at classics, and then
Mhm.
all this build, just clean, crisp, confident. There was no rush. There was no,
Yeah.
and there were nerves,
Right.
but they've channeled them and used them in a way. So I always say I'm on the edge of my seat, but literally, I think I was floating above my seat for much of it. But I want to thank the crowd because their spiritedness and their love and support, unconditional and limitless, really fueled some amazing performances.
I mean, Kathy, maybe there were some people in the crowd that were listening to our episode about what to watch. So kudos to you for giving them that insight on what to watch. But I think there's a really good educational piece to the crowds that they do know gymnastics. It's not you're just watching, you're watching ladies or athletes, women in leotards dancing around, they know gymnastics. And as an athlete, you absolutely appreciate that. I think as a retired athlete sitting in the crowd, you appreciate it even more.
Yes.
So, this is part 1 to our Olympic trials episodes. We are doing a part 1 and part 2 because there was just so much that happened on both the men's side and the women's side. But for today's episode, we're really going to dive into the women. Now, my question to you, Kathy, is where do you want to start? Because there is so much.
I think we have to start with what they altered the course of these trials. And I want
Right.
to mourn with them and to also celebrate the athletes that were injured and did not get to continue because it was heart shattering.
Yeah.
Chiles Jones, Sky Blakely, Kayla DiCello. I mean, these athletes were in the mix. When I looked at my notes and the way that I had them in order of their impact points, just in
Mhm.
terms of where they would contribute to the team, what made them special and what made them part of that mix. And right in there, like second, third, and fourth, right up there. So all our hearts just
Mhm.
dropped to our feet. They have broken into a million pieces, and we wish them Godspeed. Because, as I said, with every single one of them, their story does not end here. It just does not end. But their Olympic dream for these Olympic Games ended in
Mhm.
a split second. And that's the cruelty of sports.
Yeah.
It's the randomness. It's because they were also prepared
Yeah.
also prepared. So it was our loss, obviously theirs as well. But I hope this is the beginning of something extraordinary for them to add to their book. It'll be a
Mhm.
new chapter, and we'll see where it takes them.
Yeah, I mean, that was beautifully said, and it's so hard. Gymnastics is so hard, but Olympic trials, in my opinion, is the hardest meet for athletes to compete in because your dreams are either going to be made or crushed.
Yeah.
And to have your dreams crushed due to injury, that you up here, you're so, mentally, you're ready. You are ready. And when your body just does, I don't want to say that their bodies gave up on them. That's not what I want to say. But, things happen. It's athletics, it's sports, but the emotion that we saw in them
Yeah.
from a viewer standpoint, I mean, it crushed my soul. It was so hard to watch because not only are there, I mean, you work so hard for that one moment. And when it gets taken away from you, there's a really big feeling of it's not fair. Why me? Um, and that's hard. And my recommendation to any athlete that ever goes through injury, let it go through you.
Yeah, that's why I said mourn. You have to mourn
Yes.
it. You,
Yes.
you have to work through that as well. And here's the effect that it had, the ripple effect that it
Mhm.
had, not just on these athletes,
Yeah,
because this is a close knit group
very
of
much so.
athletes. They love each other. They care about each
Mhm.
other. They know what they're all dreaming, and they
Right.
know what they all want to accomplish, even if they're competing for the same spots on this team. So
Mhm.
two things: everyone else's hearts broke for them, but you're in that moment where you have to keep everything together. You have to stay focused, which is what these three women would want
Mhm.
of their friends and teammates,
Right.
is to stay focused. Don't get lost in the grief for me when you have something that you need to do. That's hard to do. And I know
Mhm.
some of them, Suni said it, she had to speak to a therapist and talk
Oh,
to her.
yeah.
I mean, these are dear friends, and you have to work through that. Two, there is no way it does not just creep in. It's like, oh my God, those
Right.
kind of injuries can happen. And let's just say this too. This will finally, I believe, push us to that next level of research science. into these injuries, especially
Mhm.
Achilles.
Yeah.
Especially Achilles. We have to see if there's anything that we can learn, that we can figure out through
Yeah.
research and study. Knowledgeable people
Mhm.
put their brain power together, and let's figure out what we can do. Because obviously, we've gotten really good at rehabbing them, like repairing,
Right.
rehabbing, getting athletes back. That's why I feel good for them and their future.
Mhm.
We need to prevent it if
Yeah.
we can, if there's a way. So we'll put that aside for right now because that's a topic for another time. But so with all of these layers added to already an elevated pressure situation, I can't say that I worried. I just I didn't know what to expect. Okay. And
Mhm.
that's kind of something you can't do in an Olympic trial situation,
Right.
especially when you get to those events or that event. I hate to single out balance beam. I really, really do, because you and I love this event. And we're even shout
I
out to
know.
Sam and Beam Queen Boot Camp. I wore this on
We
purpose.
didn't I was well, we did
Well,
not plan this. For those able to see the video, Kathy and I are both wearing
yeah,
Beam Queen boot camp shirts. This was not planned.
yeah,
Shout out Sam, you're welcome.
yeah.
But again, not planned.
Yeah, but what did I say? I said I really need a T-shirt that's like got Beam and Pommel Horse on it at the same time
Yeah.
because they played into the dynamics of the trials and selection, both those events. So when we get to the men, we'll talk about that
Mhm.
next episode. But how do you want to go through like event by event, gymnast by gymnast? Like,
I think we should definitely do gymnast by gymnast because I mean, on a very much lighter note, the Olympic team was decided and they did
phenomenal.
a really good job of, I think, not only choosing an Olympic team that is best individually, but best for the team. And I say that because it is important. Some of the when you go to the Olympics, you have got team on your mind, but there are 4 athletes from the Tokyo Olympics returning. That
Yeah.
is
So
wild.
you heard what I wanted to name them.
I did. I did read that. I love it.
The Phoenix 5, and here's why. I mean, anybody who knows the magical, um, phoenix in Greek mythology, or if you played Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or
Well, I
read
was gonna
Harry
say
Potter.
the only reason I know what a phoenix is from Harry Potter.
Yes,
So,
of course. So, somebody out there, I mean, even said, "Nobody's gonna know what that is." I was like,
yes, they will.
"Lived under a rock," but they wouldn't know. But a phoenix rises from the ash like it burns itself
Mhm.
almost to the ground, and you tell me every single one of these athletes except for Hesley Rivera, which we'll talk about later,
Mhm.
have felt probably as if they themselves or their dream of competing in these Olympic games burned to the ground
Right.
into ashes. And yet these beautiful, gorgeous phoenixes just rose in this moment and emerged as like goddesses, really. What shined through everything as when I saw Suni's bar routine, her first event, like, oh my God, forget that it was just stunning bar work. I could just feel that, like Phoenix rising.
Yeah.
Okay. And everything was just shown, like she swung it to the hilt.
Mhm.
Okay. Everyone from twisties to injuries to illness to doubt to mental and physical exhaustion,
Mhm.
not believing it was possible or maybe an untimely injury, all of the things that the women, especially from the last Olympic Games, and then you know what they dealt with in Tokyo.
Mhm.
I mean, if that didn't feel like it burnt them to the ground, I don't
Right.
know what would. So that's why I came up with Phoenix 5. Whether it'll ever take off, who knows? But to me, they will forever be the Phoenix 5. And then Hesley just learned to fly just in time to join them, which is so sweet. But let's start with Simone. You want to start?
Yes. Beautiful. Well, Simone, she was I she was kind of one of our locks. if Simone went into Olympic trials and did what Simone does normally, she was going to make it.
Mhm,
One thing that so I had the pleasure of watching the NBC coverage from my couch. It was delightful. It was really interesting, again, just being able to watch. I got to watch this Olympic trials. I have no responsibilities for this Olympic Games except viewing and coming on this podcast and talking about it, which is really exciting to me because I get to be a fan. I
yeah,
get to sit back and really watch. And the one thing that I loved about Simone on both days, she was never satisfied with what she did
mhm,
because that to me, that shows not only does it show that she's capable of more, not that we need more from her, but she knows that she's capable of greatness.
mhm,
But it also showed to me that she's not gonna give up. I mean, she went back into the gym whenever they get back, and
mhm,
she's going to work on those fine details.
mhm, yeah,
But it was what she did after her events that really stuck out to me.
yeah,
And that was being the best teammate
mhm,
to everyone around her.
yeah,
And
it
that is really something that I hope these athletes, and I know that they won't take that for granted. I was very fortunate to be surrounded by essentially my peers took care of me. I was in Hesley's position. I was the youngest on the team and Alicia was my mama bear. She was the one who took care of me, made sure I was on time to everything.
yes,
But it's so important to I think to me, it's just important to see that growth from
mhm,
an organization standpoint, but Simone truly looked at each person as not a competitor,
mhm,
not even a teammate, from what it looked like, a sister. I
yeah.
mean, a true and that was something that I literally was sitting there just saying, "Wow."
This is why I was looking forward to talking to you about this because so I was in the arena,
Okay.
and we were
Of
up in a
course you
suite.
were.
We were up in a suite
Yeah,
because
you
they were
were.
honoring both of our teams. So, but it made us much further off the floor, and the temptation was to gab with my friends. But I sat and focused. No, I sat in a chair, blocked everything out to watch. But watching while not commentating is different.
Mhm. For sure.
Not seeing them up close, which is what you got to see. Sometimes I got
Yeah.
to see it because they put it up on the big
Right.
jumbotron
But it's
board, and
different.
which was kind of cool. I got to see that. But what you brought up about Simone was so spot on because no, she's not satisfied. And she's also
Mhm.
making it very, very clear, both in her gymnastics, in her interviews, in her actions
Mhm.
on the floor, her interactions with coaches and with the other athletes who she's really helping and
Yeah.
taking the time out and the energy to help them and to be supportive of them to bring out the best in them, which is wonderful. But it shows she is doing this for herself,
Mhm.
not in the selfish way, not in the selfish way. This is in a way that's healthy because it doesn't matter what it looks like to you or the
Mhm.
viewer or the fan or the whatever. She is satisfying her need to be the best Simone she can possibly be in every single way. That is not an act, that is not a performance for others. That is something that's very real for
Mhm.
her. And she's doing it very purposefully. And I love that. And we should all take note of it because we talked about this a little bit. The maturity that I'm seeing in all of these gymnasts,
Mhm.
including young little Hesley, who can't even drive yet. Um, the maturity, yes, there's more maturity in her gymnastics, and she's going to grow being on a team of women, a team of mama bears. Okay.
Mhm.
They really are.
Yep.
And so I'm excited for the sport of gymnastics, not just for Hesley. I'm super excited for Hesley. I mean, who wouldn't be? But it's exciting for gymnastics and the next quad and all that. We're doing what we
Mhm.
need to do. And that's we are following the lead of others. And in this instance, they're following their own lead, what they
Mhm.
started, and they're bringing others along. They
Right.
are bringing the rest, the alternates, those who didn't make the team, those who aren't traveling to Paris, but everybody feels part of it and they're coming along. And
Mhm.
Simone is a very, very big part of that. Now, and when you just think about her gymnastics, I mean, it was pretty stellar.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
When she did that vault and it's like over rotated to like
I just wanna know, like, how what does that feel like? What does it feel to be that high and
rip up.
flipping? I wanna know. I
Do you
wanna
remember
know.
what I said? That Bill Sands actually did a thing way back in those years of timing, air
Oh,
time,
yes.
determining how many flips and twists are possible.
Right.
Not, just I saw Bill because he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. So I asked him, I
And
said,
what
what's
was his
the
answer?
and he goes, "Oh, there's room for more. Oh yeah. Oh yeah." And I said, not that we're not nobody's pushing Simone to do any
Right.
more craziness. This is plenty, but just know there's enough time up there,
Wow.
especially with the way she flips and twists. So, um, and then we can talk about Beam because she wasn't alone. A lot of people had some issues
Yeah.
with Beam, but guess what? This is where you want to have them.
Oh,
They survived. They survived them.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
She made the team, but it sure probably felt in the moment, probably not to Simone because she can
Yeah.
survive the fall,
Mhm.
especially with all her D score crazy. Like she
Yeah.
can easily, not you never want to say easily, but yes, easily survive the fall.
Mhm.
But when Suni fell, and this was
Yeah.
after the most spectacular beam routine from day one that we saw. So this is when being in the arena versus watching it on TV. I don't know
Mhm.
what was shown, but I could not take my eyes off of her as she left the arena. She had
Mhm.
to leave and go do whatever Suni needed to do. That is not a
Right.
bad thing. That is, but it was a rather lengthy time away,
Yeah.
and her coaches stayed huddled together by themselves. And I got my phone out and I zoomed in and I'm watching Jess. And no, I'm kidding, not trying to read their lips or anything, but I was just like, and then everybody, you could just hear everybody holding their breath. And I'm sure not everybody was doing what I'm doing. I just know that I had this moment. I walked out of an arena during an Olympic trials, or no,
Oh, yeah.
I
We've
wanted
all walked
to
out of an
walk
arena
out.
at least once in our life,
My
maybe
coach wouldn't let
multiple.
me. He wouldn't let me go out. And I
Oh,
I would have been fine. I was a grown woman. I was like, part of me wanted to go, excuse me? I'm a grown you know what woman and I need to walk out the arena. What? I can't. I'm gonna do
exactly.
routines on the floor. Okay, fine. And I did I did. I did what I was
Okay,
told.
fine.
But here's what's so beautiful. And I went up to Jess afterwards and said,
Mhm.
I have to tell you, not just how proud I am of Suni and
Mhm.
how mesmerized I am with the beauty um, and it's just magical, the gymnastics
Right.
she's doing right now. I said, but the way that you and your team managed Suni, because to find the balance each day, to know when to push, when to back off, when to pause,
Mhm.
when to breathe, when to wait.
Yeah.
In this moment, it was like everything in microcosm. In this moment, when Suni left after Beam and they stood together and then just walked across the floor, I think he was going to go out, but he didn't have to. He got almost out and Suni was coming back in, determined and look at just
Yeah.
posed herself, put everything back together, took a drink of water, and went and did the most magnificent floor routine
Mhm.
after that. And I got a chance to talk to Suni after the meet to tell her just how beautiful and how much I love that new floor routine. And she goes, "Do you? I think it's better." I'm like, and
It
like
is
she was
stunning. It is
so
gorgeous.
yes, and it's going to get even more so. Each time she does it, it fills out even more,
Mhm.
and the feeling
Agreed.
like that, it is Phoenix like. Okay, that's what that routine does for me. It's like just emerging from the ashes and it's just, oh, such a stunning, beautiful routine.
Mhm.
So there's the lesson for all any young gymnasts out there listening. In those moments of, because there's no way she didn't feel despair
Right.
and worry and like, oh my God, did that
Yeah.
just, but to be able to quickly, but take the time. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just ignore, and
Right.
pretend like you're not feeling these feelings.
Right. I mean, essentially, Suni took she took her gymnastics in her own hands and she pushed reset by herself on her terms. And she did and I think it just goes to show, for me, it goes to show the trust that her coaches have in her and that she has in her coaches. Because most athletes, might have been me, got a little chippy when they were frustrated.
Mhm.
And I would be sent like, "Go take a walk. Go," and it was kind of like, the older I got, the more I learned that the reset is not just for my coach to reset, but also for me. I mean, and it really is to kind of take a deep breath to remember that it's not over. And I think it's so easy when you're at Olympic trials, you're at the biggest stage and
Mhm.
you have a mistake, it's so easy to just say, "This is it. I'm done." There's no coming back from that. And it would have been very easy for Suni probably to just stand there,
Yeah.
maybe fake a smile, but she didn't. She took that was really impressive to hear that she really just took her gymnastics, her maturity in her own hands. And, you know, again, for any athlete listening, that is what really makes a champion
Mhm.
is knowing you said it perfectly, Kathy. It was a work of art watching her pace this entire kind of way. The last couple years, honestly, it wasn't an overnight thing. I mean, this was years in the making of
Yes.
her coming back. And I think Simone and Suni are incredible athletes. I mean, they're out of this world athletes, but they, as human beings, are really special and
Yeah.
really important to the gymnastics community.
These aren't just gymnastics lessons. These are life lessons.
Yeah.
Because we say it all the time. I mean, sports is not life. It mirrors it though. And
Mhm.
it gives you, if you will allow yourself to learn, it gives you the tools that later, I promise you, every one of these gymnasts will look back on some of these moments
Oh,
and
yeah.
and they will be able to transfer them to life situations,
Mhm.
relationship situations, or
Yeah.
just when things happen that are beyond our control or in our control. That's maturity. When
Yeah.
you learn that you do have control of certain things and that you do have to take control and take ownership. Like you said,
Mhm.
you took ownership in that moment. And most important, her coaches let her. They
Mhm.
didn't try to go fix it. They didn't go try
Right.
to force her to feel this way, or to do this or to do that. They trusted her to handle that situation and come back. And trust me, I'm sure they were worrying. Like,
Oh,
there's no
yeah.
all these coaches are going through, they're on the same emotional roller coaster
Mhm.
throughout these trials, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think again, like you said, it shows the maturity. And talking about maturity kind of leads us into the next athlete, which is Jordan Chiles. I don't think Jordan has ever looked as confident, as strong, as motivated. I mean, that girl, she looked incredible. She is that girl. I saw the shirts. I love
Yes.
the shirts.
Yeah.
She really, I think this Olympic trials for her was a huge boost in the right direction as far as confidence, as far as skill. I mean, she looked good. All of
Yes.
her skills, they looked great.
They did. And what showed up is the hard work, that because you can't fake that.
Yeah.
You can't. I
No.
mean, you can hope to get lucky or whatever, but what I have seen, and she had a lot of very real physical injuries and issues that she had to work through. And in fact, not work. Like at times, I
Yeah.
I can't work. I can't do this because of these injuries. I'm limited. And so to not panic and to just say, okay, the timing, my timeline has to change.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean I'm going to do any less focused work. It's just when am I going to be able to do the kind of focused, in, intentional work on all of the things that need to be so sharp, so crisp,
Mhm.
so clean, so confident that I can do it under immense pressure. And even if I have a little mistake, if I have something like on balance beam, okay, it doesn't rattle you. It doesn't throw
Mhm.
you. You just get back on and say, "No, be that girl. Be that confident girl,
Mhm.
no matter what." And that was a beautiful thing to watch because it's the best I have ever seen Jordan Chiles look. And you could feel her, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
she's such a beautiful human, the way that she's so there for everybody else, running to every corner when Simone was
Right.
tumbling, you
Yeah.
know, um, because you always think, "Oh, Simone doesn't need any encouragement because she never gets tired. She doesn't." Of course she does, and I loved at the end of her floor routine when she was walking off the steps and sat down on the podium, didn't even
I
make it all
loved it.
I was like, "Thank you for showing us that you are in fact human, like the rest of us. Like you don't just walk out and go, oh, piece of cake." It's like,
Right.
dang, that's hard.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, so the way they would cheer for each other
Mhm.
and stand there with, I remember seeing um, Simone and Jordan there for Jocelyn when she did floor. I mean, just the bond that these teammates have
Mhm.
for each other. It just elevated everything in the arena. It elevated sports to something far more important than it really is for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think what these athletes are doing and did over the weekend at Olympic trials will go down in history. I mean, we will never forget the
No.
Olympic trials that we just witnessed. But again, I do want to, I just, Jordan to me, again, an athlete who competed in college, same with Suni, and then we're going to get to Jade because I have to say it. I think competing in college helped every single one of these athletes that obviously has competed in college right now.
No.
They were able to, it almost seemed, and I could be totally wrong, and they could be like, that's not it at all. But it looked like when they had the mistake, they were so quick to put it behind them. I mean, because they didn't have an option. I mean, that was, you either put it behind you or that thing marinates and it just sits in you and it takes over. And you
Yes.
could tell when the mistakes happened, Jordan, she didn't let it get to her.
Mhm.
She focused in on what she needed to do and she moved on.
I think they've shared that, and also they they have learned that that energy, that enthusiasm that is so much a part of NCAA gymnastics
Right.
and the experience week in and week out and managing it. Because in elite, let's face it, a lot of time, oh no, we got to keep we got to conserve our energy. We got to
Oh my
conserve our
gosh.
energy.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. And it got so serious and it gets flat. It gets like
Hmm.
too intense and the energy just goes out the room because you're trying to calm your nerves so much that you're settling everything almost below the level of energy you need. And
Hmm.
instead, they went with it. They've learned that though,
Yeah.
doing college gymnastics. And it's probably helped their endurance and their fitness because I used to
For
say,
sure.
how are they dancing? And
My
I'm
gosh.
actually, I have to share this. I'm now dancing around my place here. We put on music, my husband and I do, and I was like, you know what? I'm taking a lesson from Jordan. It is good for your mental health. It's good for
Oh,
your
heck
energy,
yeah.
for your mood, for everything. And I'm inclined to do that anyways. I love dancing. I love music. So it's like, I felt that in the arena. There was just
Hmm.
much more energy used and expended and shared, and the place was electric. So, and I think that does come from college. They've learned that you can still focus, can still intensely and with great intent focus, even when things are, crazy high energy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's dare I say, you can smile and
Mhm.
have fun in elite gymnastics where it just didn't always used to seem like that,
Yeah.
different time, different time.
Yeah. No, but look at that, and that who's up in the suite with me is Bart Connor. So, my broadcast and we're sitting there and he goes, "What about these college kids?" I was like, "Yeah." I
Mhm.
mean, it feels good for all of us
Yeah.
to know that I said it's why I said we now have a bridge between college and elite,
Yeah.
and it's two-way one.
Right.
Not just one way, it's two ways. They learn from each other, they use each other, and it's just helped gymnastics.
Totally agree, Kathy. And then, I mean, moving on, Miss Jade
Oh.
Carey.
Oh my gosh. I got to see them all after Jade and Tanya and Michael and her dad, and I mean, it's like, what a team
Yes.
effort. Yes, Jade had to do it. Jade had to do the physical work, had to do the mental work, had to work like and have all that pressure on her own shoulders as she put on the leotard and goes out there and does
Yeah.
her. But you can just tell the impact that having those people in her corner, including her teammates at
Mhm.
Oregon State and her experience in college, in because she loved it.
Yeah.
And as Tanya told me, she goes, she is so competitive that even during college, like when they want her to rest, she goes, "Oh no, I need to compete this weekend.
Right.
Not to, like I need to do it, and I want to do it for my team, but no, I need to compete." Um, so and it just developed such a resilience and a consistency
Mhm.
that now is ingrained in her. And then the steady improvement of her gymnastics and the way they added the difficulty in, and even her floor. And there's so much more there. Tanya and I talked. I was like, okay, when you go back to this, because Tanya, well, we trained together, we competed together, and Tanya's floor. And I was
Oh,
happy
yes.
from this podcast, people saw, they looked up Tanya's floor routine. They actually shared it. And I was like, yep. So I said, Tanya, go back and then you go sit up at the top of the arena, like up in the rafters, and have her do a dance through. And you have to be able to see every movement, every facial expression,
Yeah.
because she is an introvert. Jade is. Everything is more in. Um, she's talks loudly with her tumbling, though. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh, yes.
open with the tumbling, that is huge. And the dance is coming. Like
Mhm.
it's starting to just get. I love her ending pose. There's a photo of her doing it on floor with the biggest smile on her face, but like the rock smile.
Yeah.
It's like rock on. It was so cool. I loved it. So I I'm so happy for all these athletes,
Mhm.
especially happy for Jade because it was a long process and extra special because yeah, she competed in vault and bars, Olympic floor champion, but she just made the hardest gymnastics team to make, and that's the US gymnastics women's team, and she just did it. So it's like
Yeah.
thrilled for her.
Yeah, I think I think college helped Jade so much by coming out of her shell maybe when she's competing, but I really do think she just competed with this edginess, in my opinion. She had this edginess to her
Mm,
that was like, doubters are gonna doubt, let them doubt. Block the noise out. Don't and I think that's what was so impressive to me watching her compete.
mhm.
She is a stud on floor and vault. We know that. She is incredible.
Yeah,
But she made a statement on balance beam and on bars.
yeah,
She did. I think she not only proved to the selection committee, that's the term I'm looking for, selection committee, that I can be an all-arounder.
yes, they can
You
count on
can
her.
put me wherever you need me.
Yeah,
But it was almost this sense of proving to herself, you're not just floor and vault.
No.
You are an amazing athlete on all 4 events.
Mhm.
And again, Kathy, you said it took a village to get her here, and I think that's such a special it's a special time kind of training for the Olympic Games, training for Olympic trials because she just has so many amazing people in her corner.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet what they did that was very smart too is they still stayed hyper focused on the 2 events that they had.
Ha
Like, you have
Right.
to be phenomenal on vault and floor
Mhm.
because that's where we really need that D score. We need that. I mean, let's face it, bring the defending Olympic champion on
Yeah.
floor onto your team. So, and then she added the upgrade of the vault. So it's like, oh my gosh, just with the vault and floor, she
Mhm.
really did what she needed to do. But to be able to prove to them, because let's face it, after all the injuries we've seen and all the different weird things we've seen,
Yeah.
we don't want a situation where an athlete can't step in at any given moment and do any event,
Right.
um, which can also lead us into Hesley.
Absolutely.
What a what a journey, is I think I saw somebody write, so amazing that they were like trying to pace her for 2028. It's like
Oh,
we
I
got
know.
2028. Well, hello.
Right.
I mean, yes, was part of it because of many injuries. Yes, but that's sports, that's life.
Mhm.
And when it's not just because she had the opportunity, she did some amazing gymnastics, like her beam and bars. She has
Mhm.
a single top 3 score on beam. Okay, one of the single high top 3 score on beam, and she was top 4 placement on beam. So right there. And then top place on beam at the
Mhm.
trials. Okay? I'm
Right.
looking at my notes. Sorry, I'm cheating. And then top 3 score on beam, and then top 4 place on bars, top 3, score of
Right.
14.3 on bars. So those are the 2 events that they need to know they can use her, whether it's preliminaries, she can go in
Yeah.
the team final, and be just
Mhm.
right there with the rest of the world on those 2 events. But then was a top 7 vault score, single vault. So anyways, she just put everything together.
Mhm.
And it was cool because they were able to stay essentially with rank order all around,
Yeah.
you know, but not just because they made a decision to do it.
Right.
It
Yeah.
makes perfect sense when because I broke it down all with my point system. I broke it naturally. I did
Of course you did.
all down. Um, and it was the right choice. I think I don't even want to say it was like a selection decision, but who we're going to speak about next
Mhm.
probably had the most incredible improvement
Yeah.
from the start of this trial year leading up to this and coming off an injury, like when
Yeah.
Sue said a year ago, I didn't think this was possible. This next gymnast probably thought the same thing, and that's Jocelyn.
Yeah. But Kathy, before we move on to
Yeah.
Jocelyn, I was speaking with my dear friend. Most people know him and love him,
Mhm.
Scott Bregman.
Yes.
Scott and I were talking about Hesley
Yeah.
just a little bit. We were texting back and forth,
Mhm.
and he brought up something that kind of shocked me. And it more so now impressed it I'm so impressed with
Mhm.
what Hesley has done.
Yeah.
At classics, her highest score was, I believe, like a low 13.
Yeah.
I believe she finished, and again, I know that I will get corrected if I'm wrong, but I believe she finished around like 24th. I mean, she was 0 for 4 at
Yeah.
classics and
Mhm.
then showed up to Olympic trials and went 8 for 8.
Yeah.
If that does not show you the mental toughness of
Yeah.
this athlete
Yeah.
and the confidence that she has in herself and knowing that mistakes will happen, but does not let them, you know, affect her.
Yeah. She did exactly what I wished and hoped and dreamed I thought I could do in 1976 when I was 16 in my first year of elite. Okay, first year of elite. And I was like 23rd the first meet. And then each meet I just barely qualified and then came so close at trials. So I can completely
Yeah.
relate to just that feeling, except I don't know, maybe she in her mind believed, you know what, I can make this team. I can make this team like I did. And I couldn't quite, I wasn't quite ready to.
Mhm.
She ended up proving with her gymnastics. Okay. And it was like, it wasn't luck.
Yeah.
Like we've seen the steady improvement and just watching her gymnastics, it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
You know, there is so much
Absolutely.
beauty in her movement and in her technique and her skills. She's very well trained and very well prepared. And just as exciting as it has been the last few months watching her do this, she's got more time.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so by the time we get to the Olympic Games, after the training and the confidence that making this Olympic team and then training amongst living legends in our sport,
Mhm.
2 Olympic all-around champions, an
Yeah.
Olympic floor champion, you know, two-time Olympic silver medalist in the team. Like, she will just blossom
Yeah.
at these games. I'm with you, and Scott. Ab
And I think shout out Scott, thank you so much for that. But I do think so one thing that you kinda hit on briefly was that the training from qualifying to the Olympic Games, knowing that you're going and that chunk of training that you do is different.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
It's different than the training you do leading up, and I think that's what I'm really excited for Hesley to not only do, obviously, an experience, but really, like,
Mhm.
hone in on. I mean, she doesn't have a lot that she needs to work on, Hesley. You have beautiful gymnastics. I think artistically, she is stunning.
Yes.
Her lines are beautiful. I do, and I think being around, like you said, being around greatness makes you wanna be great,
Yes. The Olympic
and
stage is gonna bring out the best in her.
yeah.
Um, I People are going to love her gymnastics, and
Mhm.
that's just gonna fuel it, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, just give you sort of that extra energy, that excitement that you can channel into
Mhm.
even better gymnastics, and her coaches know this.
Yeah.
You know, I think they have a good sense of, okay, we're not going to let her get ahead of herself. We're not going to let her, you know, like we're going to
Mhm.
stay in this. We're still preparing, you know,
Yeah.
we're surprised ourselves in some ways, but not. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for
really
sure.
nice job in helping her find that extra layer of Olympic confidence, where that when
Mhm.
you get on the Olympic stage, that you are ready for your close up, like
Yeah,
big time.
absolutely. Well, so that is our Olympic team.
Yeah.
Miss Simone, Suni, Jordan, Jade, and Hesley. That is our Olympic team, but there are athletes traveling.
Mhm.
I think what did they call them? Traveling reserves? Oh, traveling alternates.
Mhm.
I I want to give a huge shout out to these two athletes
Yeah.
because for okay, we're going to talk about Jocelyn first. Jocelyn, I
Mm.
adore you. I do. I cannot wait.
President, vice president of your fan club right here.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I mean, I think we're the president and VP of a couple fan clubs, but Jocelyn is definitely in that. And one thing that stood out to me about not only her gymnastics, and I know you're going to talk about just the journey that it took to get to Olympic trials for her,
Mhm.
but her emotion
Oh,
and passion for the sport of gymnastics and for the loved ones around her, and by those loved ones, I mean her teammates. I mean, it almost made me wanna cry watching, and you saw this sense of emotion that whether she was going to be a traveling alternate, whether she was gonna make that team, she was so proud, and she should have been, because what she was able to accomplish this year leading up to the Olympic trials and obviously being in them was greatness. I
Mm.
mean, it was greatness.
Yeah. So you asked me before we started this, did I cry
Mhm.
there? Well,
Oh,
every
yeah, Kathy, did you cry when you were at Olympic
so
trials?
well, you just brought up the moments that really made me cry. I cried a number of times. Happy tears for the most part, but a few hard ones too. Um, right before we had to come down to the floor
Mhm.
for that last rotation because we marched out and they honored us up on the podium,
Yeah.
the 2004 and the 84 teams. So we got to be down on the floor, and where the entrance was right where floor exercise was. So we
Oh,
actually
wow.
watched the floors from floor level. The
Mhm.
men's team had lined up here. It was when they did the Simba with
Oh, yeah.
so they were off to the left. We got to just see so many cool things there, and we kept getting yelled at because we kept inching out onto the floor, and they wanted us.
Not surprising.
You have to keep it open so that people can come and go, and you've got security and everybody else, and it's like, who are these old people here? No, so
Kathy wasn't following the rules.
oh,
Needless to say, that's what was
I
happening.
I stayed off this side.
Okay.
I could see their faces throughout the whole
Mhm.
routine, and I could see the other gymnasts on the sides cheering and yelling for them. So I got to see and feel their emotion.
Mhm.
So yes, when Jocelyn finished
Yeah.
and hit her ending pose with her head thrown back
Oh,
and the arm up, and then when her face came down and she couldn't contain the emotion, I that's when I cried. So that was one of the many moments that I got to see, and it always hits you at the end of floor. You build up so much emotion in your floor
yeah.
routine anyways, because you're emoting,
Yeah.
you're performing the dance, the choreography, that so you're very emotionally engaged in the routine.
Mhm.
So once that emotion switches to the emotion of, oh my God,
Yeah.
I've done it. Like it just it's such a beautiful, sweet moment, especially when it's tears. When I used to say it's like joy that is so deep and so strong it hurts. Like
Yeah.
it just
No, for sure.
you have to have a
And it's
look on your face.
and it's joy and emotion that you I mean, there's no controlling it.
No.
Just I mean, and I think that that's what makes me really happy is not only as a gymnastics community is, emotion encouraged, whether it's
Yes.
happy. I mean, it's really encouraged because these athletes did beautiful things.
Mhm.
They made their own magic, no matter what that looked like for them. And I think just what she was able to accomplish. I think there were a couple athletes maybe that were competing at Olympic trials that might not have thought they were going to be there.
Mhm.
Whether, there were a lot of different circumstances that they might have just I think deep down they probably believed, but it's easy to believe in your heart. It's sometimes hard to believe in your head if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
And mentally, I think Jocelyn has looked amazing,
Yeah.
just the lead up to Olympic trials, no doubt. But what she was able to accomplish, just the ease that she did her routines with. I mean,
Oh,
she was out there having fun.
yeah. Yeah, and she went for 10th all around at championships,
Mhm.
6th all around at the Olympic trials.
That's amazing.
Like, that in and of itself, and then she's got, as I said, she tied with Hesley for the top place on beam.
Mhm.
Okay. Now we said beam was a funky event. Some of our top beam workers, and they
Mhm.
will be our top beam workers again.
Right.
But in that moment, to make this team, they didn't just have to shine like the ones who won these alternate spots. They
Yeah.
won these alternate spots. Had to be superb in all areas, you
Mhm.
to really assure the selection committee. And that's what was cool, that they were essentially able to go rank order. So on
Yeah.
the women's side, it's like they all did what they needed to do,
Mhm.
laid it all on the line. I mean, gave it every ounce of heart and talent they had, and just they left with nothing left in the tank. I can
Right.
assure
Yeah.
you. Like
No, for
emptied
sure.
they emptied their tank.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then the 2 non-traveling alternates.
Yeah.
Pretty
Well, and
awesome.
I just wanna talk briefly about Leanne
Yeah,
because, again, another athlete that is just outstanding. I think watching her in college, you and I have watched her in college for years now, and it's always a joy to get to watch her in
mhm,
college, and it's a joy to watch all these athletes, but Leanne has just stepped into this
mhm.
confident, just radiant
Yeah,
athlete.
yeah, and worked so hard. This is a gymnast who competed every single college meet all the way
Oh my
through
gosh.
the final season, through the intensity of the national championships,
Yeah.
and like through heartbreak, through triumph, through fit, like while writing a book,
Oh my gosh. She can literally do it
doing her
all.
studies, running her company, making all her bows, which by the way, guess what I have? I have 2 Leanne Wong bows. Well, I was talking to Jenny. I came up and hugged Jenny after
Mhm.
the meet because I was like, "Oh my god, how are you? Like,
And it was probably like, "Ask me in, like, 5
how
minutes. Let
are
me
you?"
decompress."
Because and the same thing with Leanne. So
Yeah.
her soon to be Florida teammates went down with
Yeah.
injuries. Like this, that affects you deeply.
Right.
And the way that Leanne persevered and just showed just stunning resilience. And you and I both
Mm.
said, there's more there, and we're going to see
Yeah.
more of the trials. And boy, did she deliver. Top 3 place on vault, top 3 score on vault, too. Okay. Top 5 place on bars, top 7 on, like she put it out there and worked so hard. So when I said to Jenny, I said, "Oh, someday I have to get some Leanne Wong bows or something like." She goes, "You can have these." She went down, took them off her shoes because she has those blue
Mhm.
Leanne Wong bows on one on each shoe. She took them off and handed them to me, and I put them on my wrist, and then went
I
up
love
and
it.
hugged Leanne there to tell her how proud I was. But I'm with you there. Like this is just somebody who has dedicated her life, her every
Yeah.
waking moment every day to being the best version of Leanne Wong in every way,
Mhm.
including gymnastics. And for her to win this spot to go to Paris
Right.
as a traveling honor with a team that is so extraordinary. And just a shout out to every gymnast, even if you're not going to Paris,
Mhm.
you have built this. You have been so instrumental in building just how special USA Gymnastics is
Mhm.
because every part of it builds us up. It's like a pyramid.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are at that moment, whether you're part of the foundation or you're the very tip top, like Simone Biles is right now, you can't do it without any of those blocks.
Yeah.
You just can't. You don't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
So we stand on everyone's shoulders. And we learned that too when we were there with the '04 team, and I was there
Mhm.
with Carly and Shannon and Allie and all of us, like the connection that we all feel in gymnastics. Like we've done this together.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So those are the traveling alternates. So they will be in Paris with the 5 members of the Olympic team, Miss Jocelyn and Leanne. And then there are 2 non-traveling alternates, which are Tiana, another big fan. I'm a
I
big
know you
fan.
are. She's beautiful to watch. She is just,
Stunning.
and I mean, her future is bright.
Oh my gosh. And I think that's one of the coolest things about what I witnessed at Olympic trials. You said it perfectly. Gosh, Kathy, you just say everything so perfectly. But
Except
the
when I don't.
bridge
Except when I don't.
but the bridge between elite gymnastics and NCAA is no longer one way.
Right.
It is a two-way road.
Mhm.
And I think for Tiana and Kalia,
Mm.
both athletes, your future is so bright. Your future is so bright, and I cannot wait to watch.
Yes, and you will see. your elite story hasn't ended
Right.
unless you want to
Unless you want it to.
unless you want it to. And
Mhm.
when it's time, I mean, look at the memory you have. Look
Yeah.
at the moment you had, this huge moment at the Olympic trials, because everybody was so good. Um, and so invested in being the best that they can be in that moment.
Mhm.
I loved every minute.
Yeah, I think what really stuck out to me, the risk that athletes took, very calculated. Nothing was done obviously in a dangerous way, but they weren't afraid
Yeah.
to go big. They weren't afraid to do big gymnastics. And not only were these athletes doing big gymnastics, but they were doing great
Mhm.
gymnastics.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a huge it's a big testimony to all the athletes that competed at Olympic trials, to all the athletes who maybe didn't even make it to Olympic trials, but were on that it's hard. It's
Yeah.
really freaking hard.
Yeah.
And every athlete that is competing on the elite stage should always be proud of themselves because you're such a small fraction of the population.
Yeah.
And it can seem like the world is on your shoulders at times.
Mhm.
And I think as a whole, you're seeing athletes take a deep breath and
Yeah.
that weight get lifted off.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
so yeah.
wonderful the moment we got to see when Sky walked out, because she was able to come back out on the floor after
Right.
having her
Yeah.
it repaired,
Yep.
to feel the love, for everyone to just give her all the
Yeah.
love in that moment. That was very meaningful, I think,
Yeah.
for all of us, because let's just face it, fate can be very fickle. Uh,
Mhm.
the things that we can't control, those types of injuries we can't control. And as you said, in the Olympic year, and as you're building up to this monumental event that you have dreamed of for so long,
Mhm.
you will take risks
Yeah.
that you would not otherwise. They're calculated risks. They're not stupid risks. They're not
Mhm.
ridiculous risks. And you make the plans, and you, with your team, your
Mm.
coaches, your family,
Yep.
um, you know, whether that something was sore going in, or you had to take some
Yeah.
time off, or you go, "Oh, I wasn't able to train like I would normally train," but it is a calculated risk, and it's one that I can take, with the support of my team, because it's the Olympic year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, Kathy, woo, there was a lot that happened at Olympic trials, and we have a lot to cover for next week. Don't you worry, men. We're
yeah,
coming for you next.
yeah.
But for the athletes, again, you always give a piece of advice.
Mhm.
You were there. I mean, you were a part of that electric crowd that they talked about on NBC a lot, and you could feel it. I mean, I couldn't really feel it on my couch, but like I could feel it deep within that it
Yeah,
was crazy in there. But
right.
we have our Olympic team.
Mhm.
They are passports are ready, and again, they are gonna be on their way to Paris soon. What is your piece of advice?
I'm gonna tell them all this. We have just switched positions because I'm learning from them. I'm telling you, the maturity, um, that is already there, the stunning resilience, the fighting spirit, the emotion, and that they are obviously all doing it for all the right reasons, for all the most important reasons, the very deep, meaningful, personal reasons. They're all there. And that's so beautiful, because then you don't worry that no matter, and that's the whole thing.
Mhm.
You have done the work, you have dreamed the dream, and now it's like set up, follow through. Now you're going to finish.
Yeah.
That's life. It's balance beam. And just stay the course, and know that, oh my gosh, we're all behind you. Sending energy, Godspeed. Please stay healthy, everyone. Please, please, please. And God, it's going to be great.
That wraps up today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed. This is Flipping Out with Bridget Sloan, the Olympic special. I'm your host, Bridget Sloan, and make sure to tune in each week because we will be dropping new episodes. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. Let's make some good life choices out there, and don't forget to be awesome. Bye, guys.